Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning to everybody. Thank you so much for joining this event. First of all, I would like to say thank you to IFIM for organising this beautiful event, and also not to forget to Bank Negara Malaysia and also Dr. Hamim and his team to making this CAKNA proposition successful. Introducing myself, my name is Nur Muhammad. I'm from CIMB Bank, and with me today we have Encik Zul. Encik Zul, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Okay, Assalamualaikum and very good morning to everyone. I'm excited to be here, Encik No.
Yeah.
Because today we are here to share with the people outside there about CAKNA.
Yeah.
And I'm very glad that that we are invited to share our info about scheme CAKNA. And perhaps if I can introduce myself, I'm Zulfazli bin Marjo. I'm from Maybank Islamic. Currently hold a position as Vice President Business Development Maybank Islamic. You know.
Alright, thank you so much, Encik Zul. As we all aware, today in the current situation where we are facing with the tremendous pandemic that affect almost everybody in the business outside there, SME will be one of the vulnerable sectors that are being affected so much. So because of the current situation, I suppose the Bank Negara together with the few other banks to come in and to put our head together to see how can we support these SMEs, especially for those who are having a contract with the certain government agencies. This is to ease some of their working capital and to make sure their business is running as normal as much as possible. So because of that, CAKNA program being introduced. This is something that, as I mentioned earlier, to support the SMEs, to help them with their working capital requirement. And of course, there are a lot more for us to talk today about CAKNA. But without further ado, I would like to call Encik Zul to give some explanation on what is CAKNA all about. Encik Zul.
Alright, okay. Thank you, Encik No, for giving a lengthy introduction about scheme CAKNA. Okay, perhaps I think we are all aware, Encik No, that because of this pandemic, many business impacted. It's not this. Any company is not despair from this pandemic. We hear some of company been winding up because of this pandemic, and because of this, the effect of pandemic of COVID-19, the government, especially Bank Negara Malaysia, are looking into what can industry do to support this SMEs or company affected of this pandemic. And because of this, scheme CAKNA was introduced at the right time that the company are affected. So if I can share with the audience, all the registered participants, I understand today that we have about 200 plus, Encik No?
Yeah.
200 plus registered participants, and I believe all these participants are from is a supplier to the government, and they are all interested and keen to know what is scheme CAKNA and how scheme CAKNA can help them, especially during this pandemic situation.
Yeah.
Without further ado, perhaps if I can share, this scheme CAKNA is a pilot program introduced since 1st March 2021, and since we call it a pilot project, this scheme CAKNA will be for 1 year period.
Okay.
So in term of the parties involved, this scheme CAKNA is for those supplier who supply goods and services to government, which at the moment during the pilot is only open for 4 ministries.
Okay.
If I can share to participant, number 1 is the Ministry of Health. Number 2 is Ministry of Education.
Okay.
Number 3, Ministry of Higher Education, and number 4, Ministry of Communication and Multimedia. So at this juncture, scheme CAKNA is only confined to these 4 ministries, whereby those supplier that obtain government contract, good on services contract from these 4 ministry are entitled to be on board under this scheme CAKNA.
Okay.
And I think I love to share with this that at the moment is only four bank that participate, Islamic financial institution that participant into this scheme CAKNA, which is Maybank Islamic, CIMB Islamic, RHB Islamic, and MBSB Bank.
Okay.
All these four bank is Islamic bank lah, Cik Noh.
Okay.
So I hope I explain in overall what is scheme CAKNA, Cik Noh.
Yes. Thank you so much, Encik Zul. You see, of course, the involvement of the ministries, the four ministries and the four banks, and what actually scheme CAKNA offers to those fellow SMEs, Encik Zul.
Okay, alright. Okay, thank you, Encik Noh. As I earlier mentioned, that this scheme CAKNA is the objective is to support companies that been affected with pandemic, and what kind of support in that companies is actually needed. So obviously, when we talk about companies, for them to run a business, to run a sustainable business, they need enough capital, enough funding, right? So scheme CAKNA is actually a facility. It's a funding facility offered by financial institution to assist the cash flow of companies that obtain federal government contract from the four ministry that I mentioned earlier, which is from the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Higher Education, and Ministry of Communication and Multimedia. And these companies that obtain contract from these four ministries are eligible to onboard into CAKNA. And this initiative, if I can put into perspective, is basically an initiative that help the company to sustain their operation, as well as for them to expedite receiving payment or make payment to the supplier and their employees in their company, and to smooth the movement of the economy stream, thereby assisting country to come back to the right economic growth or trajectory growth, to recover back from this pandemic. And number two, this CAKNA, if I can put into a simple term, it's actually a tripartite arrangement between banks, the government agencies or ministries, as well as the supplier, whereby these tripartite parties will be enter into a contract, whereby the bank would giving a funding at the back of deed of assignment. We call it doa lah. So deed of assignment, which I will explain further.
So the simple word is doa.
The simple word is doa. So this time of Ramadan, I think we need much more doa, right? And CAKNA is like a blessing that they can use by this company during pandemic. And how this scheme CAKNA works, if I can share, is that this scheme CAKNA is unlike the normal financing. It's unlike the normal banking facility that maybe some of us some of the company already have facility with other bank. But for this scheme CAKNA, it's different. Why it's different? Because the company is actually selling the invoice that they raise post the company deliver the good and service to the government. So pending payment from the government, they can come to the bank, for four participating bank, to obtain advance. And most importantly, this is one thing that I think the company should aware that under this scheme CAKNA, when it's involved bank purchasing the receivable or the company selling the receivable, it will not increase the level of indebtedness to the company. So meaning that this scheme CAKNA, once the company sell the receivable or the invoice to the bank, this advance that the company receive in advance, while paying payment from government, it will not increase their level of indebtedness. So for those that are maybe there are some that are not clear what is the impact of level indebtedness in financial in company. So we call it gearing ratio, right? Gearing ratio. So by this scheme CAKNA, when the company onboard into scheme CAKNA, they get money upfront, advance, but it will not increase their gearing ratio. So this will help them, especially during this pandemic. Because we know that the higher the gearing ratio of company, the less likelihood that the company can get support from the financial institution. So this is very important note.
Interesting.
It's an important note. Is I think this is the opportunity that company should take under this scheme CAKNA.
Right.
And on top of that, on top of the company selling the invoice to the bank, so the once the bank purchase the receivable, purchase the invoice, so the right of the receivable now been transferred
from the customer to the bank.
From the customer to the bank. So that's another point. Because when we talk about the right interest and the benefit of that invoice that supposedly the company should receive on the or at the end of the invoice maturity, or the payment should be credited into company account, but now company get money upfront, and now the right of the invoice being transferred to the bank, and now bank become the owner of the invoice. The bank will then collect the money from the government. So that's where this arrangement is evidenced by the deed of assignment, so-called doa that we mentioned earlier. So this deed of assignment, like I explained earlier, it's a tripartite agreement that seal the whole arrangement. And this scheme CAKNA, because we know that during the MCO1 that I think the MCO1 has have greater impact, right? If I recall correctly, one day of the MCO, the country lost about 2 billion, right?
Correct.
2 billion of economic help. So that's where that the scheme CAKNA, because of we know that the impact is severe, we need the Bank Negara Malaysia come out with this scheme CAKNA together with four participating bank in terms of what can the industry do instantaneously, at fast and efficient implementation. So this scheme CAKNA is actually, I can say that is there now. It's already launched, and is fast to market, is easily to implement, which is, I think I can share later in this part of the slide. And I would like to also touch on the characteristic of CAKNA scheme. This number one, this scheme CAKNA is offered to existing SMEs or companies that obtain government contract, whether it's existing and new, that procure the contract offered in 2021, whether it's new or existing. And another characteristic that I want to share, that once the companies had delivered the goods and services to the government, while waiting payment from government, they can get the immediate payment from the bank. So I think terminology, bank like to use this terminology lah, so we call it liquidate their receivable, or liquidate their invoice. So meaning that this scheme CAKNA is an alternative source of funding for the company to obtain working capital in advance, by way of selling their invoice to the bank, without having to wait payment from the government. And number three, this scheme CAKNA, unlike other existing facilities available in the market, this scheme CAKNA, the company is eligible for the facility, CAKNA facility, whereby the invoice value can be financed or can be advanced up to 100%. Up to 100%. That's interesting. So when we talk about up to 100%, meaning that the company, if they have an invoice worth 300,000, they can bring that invoice to the bank, and the bank will finance up to 300%. Up to 300,000 of the invoice value. So that it is something that is good or interesting whereby the company can liquidate their receivable upfront. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you very much, Encik Zul, for a very, very comprehensive explanation on what is this scheme CAKNA all about and how the mechanism works, all those kind of things. Just to reiterate back what you just mentioned, Encik Zul. You see, the scheme CAKNA here is not some sort kind of financing. It's something like the SMEs selling the invoice to the bank, and the transfer, the right of the invoice being transferred from the SME to the bank, and then the bank later we claim the money from the ministry.
Yes,
So in this arrangement, I would see that the advantage towards to the SMEs is this kind of funding facilities will not appear anywhere in the balance sheet.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
that you mentioned. So in a way, when they don't report this in the balance sheet in terms of their gearing, in terms of their borrowing, it's been minimized as how they need to report.
Yep.
So it will be the benefit to the SME.
Yes, you're right. You're spot on, Encik Noh. So that's actually the purpose of CAKNA, whereby the purpose of CAKNA is to help SME, because we know that most of company is impacted during this pandemic. So they may impacted their balance sheet, their so-called secrets, or it will hamper them to get additional funding from the other financial institution. But under this scheme CAKNA, this would help them.
Yes. And furthermore, they will get 100% in terms of the funding.
Yes.
So maximize the full potential of the opportunity for them. For example, if they submit 300,000, like what Encik Zul mentioned just now, when they submit 300,000 worth of invoice, so they will get 300,000 invoice. Of course, there will be some charges.
Some charges lah.
We will
discuss later lah.
Yeah. Great. So Encik Zul, okay, this is something like illustration that we put up to give more clarity, to more understanding towards the SMEs up there. But before we proceed, perhaps for the fellow participant, if you have any question, please click to the Q&A icon. So feel free to ask questions. We will pick up that question at the end of the session, then we will address it accordingly. So, sorry, Encik Zul, come back to this table here. You see, talking about Makcik Kia and the business of supplying certain to the ministries and everything. What can we tell from this table, Encik Zul?
Okay, alright. This is interesting table, Encik Noh.
Yes.
That from the glimpse of on this slide, we can see the potential or the benefit of scheme CAKNA.
Okay.
So to give a simplify explanation to CAKNA, I believe that we should recall back when the first MCO, when our PM Tan Sri Yassin announced the support or the support that the government introduced for this scheme CAKNA. They use the Makcik Kia, right? I think Makcik Kia is
so popular now.
So popular now. So popular. Everybody talk about Makcik Kia. So do
but
we.
I can see that some SMEs come up with their own product by the name Makcik Kia.
Yeah, the memes of Makcik Kia have been great. Yeah. So if I can share, give an illustration that Makcik Kia. So Makcik Kia, during the MCO1, Makcik Kia get support from the government, and with the support, the Makcik Kia can now from open just selling nasi lemak at the roadside. Makcik Kia now have a sufficient capacity
to venture into new
business. To venture into new business. And Makcik Kia have bid a tender in to supply food to maybe to one of the ministry. Let's assume Ministry of Health.
Yes.
To provide food to Ministry of Health. And Makcik Kia won the contract for value of 300,000.
Yes.
So for Makcik Kia is new in the business.
Yeah.
So Makcik Kia have a sufficient working capital based on the company capital.
Yeah.
But the interesting part is what can Makcik Kia obtain, or what support that Makcik Kia can obtain from the contract that she obtained from the government. So let's consider this scenario, Cik Noh. So let's say Makcik Kia obtain a contract of 10,000 from Ministry of Health
Yep.
to supply food, and Makcik Kia searching around. So what sort of facility available outside there?
Correct.
So Makcik Kia know from his colleague or his another supplier to government that, oh, Makcik Kia, you actually can get facility from factoring, or you can also get facility from Mara. And now with CAKNA, Makcik Kia can consider this CAKNA as one of the alternative solution.
Correct.
So if I can compare,
But sorry, since like you mentioned, Cik Zul, Makcik Kia from last time doing stall businesses, now more into the supplying business to the MOH.
Yes.
Seems like new businesses for Makcik Kia. Of course, when the new businesses, Makcik Kia won't have any strong track record to support with her new business.
Correct.
So I suppose that with that, factoring may not be the one that's suitable for Makcik Kia or even for Mara. Do you agree?
Yeah. But we put simplicity just to give a flavor to supplier who registered, who listen to us today.
Correct.
Cik Noh, so what are the available facility that available to the supplier outside there?
Correct.
So we just give an illustration. If you compare to factoring and Mara and CAKNA, so let's focus on the funding limit first.
Okay.
So if we look into factoring, Cik Noh, so normally factoring can only provide a funding limit up to it's only up to 80% of the invoice value.
Okay.
And it can be more, it can be less depending on factory company. But
in
in
average,
general,
it's 80%,
on average, in general, it's about 80% from invoice value.
Okay.
And if Makcik Kia compared to Mara, from comparison, Mara can only provide 60% from the invoice value, and maximum up to 1 million.
Okay.
Alright, so 1 million. It can be more juga. It also can be more depending on the case-to-case basis.
Yeah.
Okay. And for CAKNA, under CAKNA, Makcik Kia can get funding up to 100%
Wow,
of
okay.
the invoice value. Yeah, that's a glaring difference if Makcik Kia compare between factoring and Mara.
Okay.
Whereby CAKNA can give 100% of the value of the invoice that Makcik Kia presented.
Okay.
That's
So
number
margin of finance, CAKNA won.
Yeah, major finance, CAKNA won.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then we talk about the funding period or the
Okay.
funding tenor.
Alright.
For factoring, it can go up to 180 days. Yeah, because we know that factoring can cover from the day that the company gets contract until payment received from the government. So
okay.
they take consideration that
End to end,
that's where end to end. But factoring, Makcik Kia may need to be assessed.
Yeah.
Yeah, Makcik Kia need to be assessed, or Makcik Kia need to be evaluated. Factoring company may need to consider the capability of Makcik Kia to repay back the funding that they provide to Makcik Kia.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's how the track record play into the part.
Yeah,
For
that's
Makcik
why.
Kia case for today, no
track record.
Yeah.
So maybe difficult lah.
Yes. Yes.
So if we compare to Mara we follow the contract tenure lah. So let's say if the contract is 2 years, perhaps under Mara the period of financing also 2 years. But for CAKNA, the bank will finance minimum 14 days from the invoice that been very approved and verified by the government for payment.
Okay.
With the payment amount, the confirmed payment amount and payment date.
Okay.
So basically, under CAKNA, the bank will finance a minimum, minimum 14 days from the day that the government inform that this invoice is good for payment.
Okay.
So the financing started minimum 14 days from there, and it can charge depending on the bank. I think CIMB, RHB, and other colleague MBSB as well. Different bank have a different period. Different period. Some can go up to 180 days or 60 days or 45 days, etc. So that one depending, but minimum is 14 days.
Right.
So That's another point under financing period.
Okay.
And
So I would say that 14 days actually is sufficient for the SMEs to obtain the fund and to use it for another kind of project maybe
yes,
they may have. Yeah.
yeah. I will pause you there first.
Okay.
I will touch about how even though it's 14 days is short period, because
Okay.
short period,
Okay.
but actually what these 14 days can make a difference.
Right.
Make different.
Right.
Yeah, I come back to you,
Sure,
on that
sure.
14 days.
Yeah.
So, and another point, if we compare with factoring and Mara,
Okay.
we talk about recourse.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
I think this word is it's an alien lah.
Okay.
It's an alien word to I think to participant outside there. Recourse, no recourse,
Yes.
balance sheet, no balance sheet.
Yeah. Maybe a bit of explanation on that.
Yeah,
would be good.
But to put it simple, recourse mean that if Makcik Kia get facility from the from factoring company,
Okay.
so at the end of the facility, if the government did not pay the factoring company,
Okay.
factoring company will go back to Makcik Kia
Right.
to get back the money that factoring company give to Makcik Kia earlier.
Okay.
So that's the difference.
So they will go and chase Makcik Kia
They
for
will
the
go
payment.
back, yes.
Okay.
So, for example, if Makcik Kia, not Makcik Kia lah. Let's take example if company A, Mr. A,
Okay.
go to Along
Okay.
to get Along.
Okay.
So will Along just close eyes and not to?
Oh, definitely not.
Definitely
Yeah.
not, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So similar to
Right,
similar to
okay.
this, because this is what it meant with recourse.
Okay.
With and without recourse.
Okay.
So if I can interestingly, for scheme CAKNA, there will be no recourse to Makcik Kia.
Right.
Compared to factoring and Mara.
Right.
What it means that when under CAKNA, when the bank advance the money to Makcik Kia, so the bank would take the ownership of the invoice. The bank would collect the money from government.
Okay.
Yeah. So Makcik Kia can take the money, sleep happily.
Okay.
So there's need to bother anymore. So that's what I mean with recourse and non-recourse lah.
Okay.
Yeah. So this scheme CAKNA, it is a non-recourse basis to Makcik Kia.
Right.
And I think under any business, cost is important.
Yes.
Cost is the main factor, right?
True.
I think you in the business as well. The cost of financing is a main consideration.
Correct.
So if I can bring the audience to the comparison for factoring, the profit rate for factoring is usually based on base funding rate plus the profit margin. Okay,
Correct.
profit margin, like I mentioned earlier, profit margin is determined by the credit worthiness of Makcik Kia.
Correct.
So if Makcik Kia long established in the company, have a sufficient collateral, have few millions, have a property building, so maybe profit margin is lesser.
Better. Okay.
But if Makcik Kia is
compared
new,
to those without any
yeah,
securities
no
or this kind of
financial
thing,
track record, then the profit rate may be higher than
Yeah.
imposed. So in range, usually under factoring it range from 10% to 12%.
All right.
So if we divide it into 10% or 12% per annum, yeah, in this case we take 10% per annum, or if we divide into per month, it's about 0.83% per month. Yeah. If we compare to Mara we take the profit rate is around 6% per annum, or 0.5% per month.
Okay.
And for CAKNA, okay, this is interesting, because when we first embark, when this scheme CAKNA been introduced,
Yeah.
so Bank Negara have given a clearly defined rule.
All right.
Bank, you should not charge beyond 5%.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So that's
5% is
become
maximum.
Maximum. So
Okay.
that's become a thing that we understand the objective, because we want to help SME companies, right, to overcome this pandemic.
Yeah.
So for CAKNA, the pricing would not is around 5%, but of course it depending on banks as well lah. Yeah.
Correct.
So maybe other bank will different, but we will have a different pricing mechanism, but overall it's around 5%. Yeah. And
So the pricing from bank to bank may vary according to a few factors internally of the respective bank.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
And And the other thing, another point on top of profit or the cost of borrowing, we call cost of funding. The other point that company usually consider is what are the incidental charges that the company need to incur.
Okay.
So we hear about handling commission,
Yes.
what else?
Yeah.
What kind of charges lah?
Correct.
For scheme CAKNA, there's no handling charges.
Okay.
Other than profit rate.
Okay.
So if you compare to factoring,
Uh-huh.
factoring usually charge 1% flat from the invoice value.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
1%
yeah.
flat,
Yeah.
So take example.
So on top of the charges that
That-
they charge on the annually basis,
Yes.
for example, like the one that Cik Zul mentioned about 10 to 12%.
Yeah.
On top of that, they also charge 1%
1%
of the invoice value.
Or the invoice value.
Wow,
So let's
okay.
say in this scenario example, Mak Cikia obtained 300,000 worth of contract. So on top of the profit rate, the 10 to 12% rate profit discount charges that Mak Cikia need to incur. Normally factoring company we charge 1% from the invoice value. So in this case, 1% from 10,000 lah.
Wow,
So
okay.
it's quite substantial amount. If
So
I can
in
say.
on Chikiah case for now 300,000 worth of the what do you call this invoice value.
Yep.
1% will be 3,000.
Yes,
Wow,
you're right.
okay.
Wow, yeah.
That could be equivalent of 2-person salary.
Yeah, you're right. Minimum wages 1,002, right?
Yeah.
More than that actually.
Yeah.
Okay. And Mara, there's no any charges, but this one may be vary. This is only example based on the public info that we obtain. Yeah. And okay, this is another point that the company should consider, right? When the company obtain any facility from any let's say factoring company or financial institution, usually beside that the financial institution need to look into the creditworthiness of the company.
Yes.
Their track record,
Yes.
their working capital, their cash flow.
Yes.
So on top of that, they will look into the collateral.
Correct.
Whether the company are able to provide collateral, whether it's FD, cash, building, right? So it give us some sort of security to financial institution lah.
Correct.
In case that the facility not been paid, so the bank can use that collateral.
True.
So, but for CAKNA, there will no collateral involved. So because the collateral for CAKNA is the invoice itself.
Right. Okay.
And the deed of assignment itself. Yeah.
True.
And compared to factoring, it's subject to factoring company. Some factoring company may require some sort of collateral lah.
Correct.
And it will depends. For Mara, up to 250,000, it will be no collateral required.
Okay.
If it's more than 250,000, under Mara scheme, they require a personal guarantee or charged land, building, or etc. Yeah. And
So again, with the current situation where the SMEs is facing with the pandemic issues, shortage in terms of working capital, some might have used the other collateral to use it for other kind of financing that they may require previously, and some being in a situation whereby difficult for them to serve the existing financing because of the contract not coming or competition is very stiff or kind of that. So for them to apply for new financing, like what you mentioned just now, Mr. Zul, they need to come up with the new set of collateral, which unfortunately at this particular moment they don't have anything to offer.
Maybe they don't able to offer, or maybe they need to use it to other things.
Yeah, correct.
They need to grow their business, right? Or made to pay the salary of employee. That pool of money that they need to use, right?
So if they go to the factoring or Mara or any other kind of other financing, they may have issues because they don't have anything to offer.
Yeah.
But when they come to CAKNA, like you mentioned, CAKNA scheme will not require any collateral. Right?
Yes.
Right. Great. Yeah. That will be helpful to the SMEs out there.
Definitely. I hope that company can consider this. This collateral is one of the consideration. Yeah. And if I can, okay, we talk about the funding limit, we talk about the period, we talk about the profit rate and handling charges. So the net effect, how much Macikia we get from 800,000?
The margin of finance.
The margin of finance. How much Macikia we obtain? The margin of finance. The amount that they needed to use it for the next business, to rolling for the next business.
Correct. Yeah.
So if we can compare, if we can look into this chart or this comparison, if we look into factoring on the day that Makcik Kia request for financing, and on the day that factoring company approve and paid Makcik Kia, under factoring, Makcik Kia will only get 237,000
Okay.
out of 300,000. So let's see how much the difference.
Yes.
Yeah? If you look into, if you compute, I think it's more than 10%, right?
Yeah.
More than 10%, right? So if Makcik Kia margin of their margin, let's say 10%.
The profit margin.
The profit margin 10%.
Oh, yeah.
Let's say lah.
Yeah.
10%. So but their Makcik Kia margin 10%, and the 90% is for Makcik Kia to pay the supplier or to pay the employee. But now they took factoring. They only get 237,000.
Which is about 80%?
No, 80%, less than 80%.
Yeah.
So maybe Makcik Kia need to fork out another 10%.
Yeah. There will be gap there, right?
There's a gap there.
Yeah.
That 10% or more than 10%,
Yes.
they need to find another source to pay the supplier if the supplier had not been paid.
I think it's something like the SME need to consider, because of course, even though the factoring may be able to provide the funding upfront, but again there's a gap there.
Yes.
They have to think, because along the way to fulfilling the contracts, they may have a black hole where they need to find somewhere else to come in and plug it. You know?
Yeah, the gap there, the gap that company need to consider.
Again, factoring be seen as supporting.
Yep.
Actually, it is not, I suppose.
Well, that one quite what we call it, dangerous statement. So maybe we don't go to that area. You know. Okay. Then we move on. We compare to Mara. So because Mara only provide financing 65%, so the net effect that Makcik Kia will get is only 195,000.
Okay.
So lesser than lesser than me. But this one depends on individual company. But on this illustration is 65%. And for CAKNA, Makcik Kia will get 299,424.66. So it's almost
100%. Yes.
Just minus the charges of 5%.
Alright.
Only 5%.
Yeah.
So that's the amount that actually Makcik Kia need to pay under CAKNA.
Yeah. But even that 5% that you mentioned, Cik Zul, is per annum basis, right?
Per annum basis.
Again,
yes.
like if you look at the chart there, per month they only paying about 0.41%.
Correct.
But we are funding only for 14 days. That even lesser. It becomes 0.205%.
Correct.
Yeah?
Because it's a daily rest.
Yes.
It's rest.
Yeah.
So if I can bring into a mathematical formula, so it's like 300,000 times 14 days times 5% divided by 361. So you get a daily amount of profit lah.
Yeah. That would be about what? 41 ringgit.
41 ringgit
10 cent
per day. Or 575.34 for 14 days financing.
Yeah.
And you compare to factoring, Makcik Kia need to pay around 3,895. Or 64 ringgit on daily basis.
Yes.
And if Mara, Makcik Kia need to pay 1,923.28.
Expensive. Yeah.
But last but not least, because for factoring and Mara, because the financing is not 100%, so at the end of the period, let's say on day one, Makcik Kia get financing from factoring or Mara, which is factoring, Makcik Kia only get 237,000.
Correct.
While Mara, Makcik Kia get 195,000. When the government paid to factoring or Mara, the residual balance will be credited back to Makcik Kia lah. So but for CAKNA, because we finance up to 100%, so there will be they don't have to bother. Makcik Kia have to bother. So it's no headache to Makcik Kia.
Exactly. I suppose that compared to factoring and Mara and CAKNA, as what Encik Zul mentioned just now, when they receive money from the government for CAKNA, for instance, they don't have to worry about the fund because they have collected upfront from the bank.
Yes.
But for factoring and Mara, maybe they also taking an assignment from the government.
Yes.
And then the government pay to the factoring company or to Mara. Then there will be some balances that they need to take back from the factoring company for Mara, right?
Correct.
So again, they need to chase too, I suppose.
Yes.
Somebody have to call Mara, call factoring company. Hey, can I have my money back? Then it depends on how long will that party takes to
to
release the
return
money,
back.
right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
imagine that like you Cik Noh mentioned. Imagine that if the company, because of the residual, the company need to do collection. Not only from government, it could be they also need to collection from the factoring company or Mara.
Yeah,
So when can
yeah,
I get
yeah.
my residual money, right?
Correct,
Which is it's not finance
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So imagine that these resources, if the company use under CAKNA, they can that resources can focus to another thing, like looking for new contract, or
Correct,
looking for
correct.
doing something that can benefit the company,
Maximize
maximize the resources, the use of
Yes,
resources.
yes.
Yeah. So under CAKNA, let's bank do that collection.
Correct.
Let's bank manage with the government, and Machikia can take the money, do something else.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's important because
Yeah.
I think as a company, I think in the corporate world or in company, they looking for sales is equally important, right? So all the admin should remain minimized at
Correct.
minimum, and optimize the sales part.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. But considering the SMEs, they may not have the workforce like a corporate
Ah,
world.
yeah.
Right? Maybe the same party doing sales, that particular person also doing collection.
Yes,
So
yes.
when they are focusing more on the collection bit, there will be opportunity cost instead of doing more sales. Then they have to focus on the collection again.
Correct.
Sales is important that you mentioned.
Correct.
Collection also equally important.
Correct,
So
yes.
if let's say in this scheme CAKNA, then they don't have to worry about the collection
Yes.
anymore. So they can all the way focus on the sales.
Yeah, right. So I think that's another consideration that company should look into.
Yeah,
right. You
right,
know.
right.
So company no need to bother anymore about the collection process, about the dining, aging, managing those. It's like a headache lah.
Correct,
Especially for
correct.
small
Collection is
company.
really a headache.
Yeah, it's a headache. Yeah. So but Encik Noh, so I think one point that I wanted to touch is
Okay.
on the when is the CAKNA come,
Okay.
or financing come. So if I can bring to the attention of the bottom part of this slide, you can see there's a linear graph.
Okay.
Linear graph
You
whereby
mean the timeline there?
the timeline,
Okay.
yeah. So this is an illustration whereby I think it's a illustration of a contract that company get from e-Perolehan.
Okay.
Right? So it started from government. Number one, government put a tender, invite all those contractor to put a tender, and before that maybe government will invite all the contractor to come to inspect the location. For
Okay.
example, we take a situation like cleaning services or maintenance, whereby before government put a tender, they will invite the contractor to come and can look into that space first, right? So they started from there. So after that, the government the company will put a tender. Put tender into Perolehan.
Yeah.
So let's say after the tender won by respective company, like example Machikia.
Okay.
Machikia won the tender. So after that, Machikia need to deliver.
Correct.
Which is stage number 2.
Yeah.
Stage number 2 whereby Machikia will deliver.
Correct.
So once Machikia deliver, the government need to accept the
Correct.
goods, whether the good received in good order or not. So
True.
that's why stage number 3. And when stage number 4, once the goods received by the government, the agency, government will inform Machikia, okay Machikia, the goods in order, now you can raise invoice.
Correct.
Right, so they were stage number 4. So once Machikia raise the invoice through e-Perolehan,
Okay.
then Machikia, the agency or the PTJs need to verify whether the invoice is according to the contract.
Okay.
So if the invoice is according to the contract, then the PTJ will say that okay, good to pay, right? If not, Machikia need to redo some adjustment on the invoice,
Okay.
or maybe there's some deduction there.
Okay.
That will be come into number 6. So when from number 6 to 7, but that's the period whereby
CAKNA
come in.
Yes.
While waiting payment from the government upon invoice has been approved and accepted by the government. So that's the period that actually CAKNA will fit into the whole e-Perolehan process lah.
Correct. So you can see from the table itself, we can see how CAKNA, the benefit of CAKNA for the SMEs may not be offered by the factoring or the MARA.
Yeah.
So from my understanding, Cik Zul, from all the benefits that we can give to the SMEs from this CAKNA alone, maybe one of it is they can use this as a tools. They can use it as a tool for them to go and talk to their respective vendors.
Yeah.
And instead of they need to use cash and pay them like how they get it from their factory, they use this as a tool to talk to their vendors and ask for a longer credit period.
Yes, yes.
So because they know that the moment that they fulfill this contract or this job to the government, after they send all those invoices or the related document to the bank, they will receive the money almost immediately.
Yes.
So once they receive the money almost immediately, they can straight away pay to all
The
their
supplier.
respective vendors.
Yes, yes.
So I think if they're doing that, most probably the vendor, by understanding this kind of arrangement, they will more than willing to help, because in the current situation, everybody is need to working together, right?
Yeah, right.
For the
yeah.
benefit of everybody.
Correct.
Maybe even if the vendor says because of the length of the credit period given, they may impose certain of maybe 0.5% or 1% on top of the current price that they may charge to Macekia.
Yeah.
But even that, I think if compared to factoring facilities, still cheaper.
Yes,
Yeah?
yes, yes.
Still cheaper. So that this will benefit Macekia to the fullest.
Correct.
I mean, from the very beginning, she obtained the contract, and then until she got the material or supplies from the vendors, until they deliver to the government, and everything can be arranged.
Yes.
Everything can be managed accordingly to the benefit of the SMEs.
Yes, you're right. You're right, Chano. That's yeah. The expert is here talking about how the company can manage the working capital cycle effectively by using CAKNA as a tool.
Yeah,
right, Chano.
But again, along as time goes by, the relationship between Macekia and her vendors is become better.
Yeah.
And by then, I think the vendor may be able to to give Macekia more flexible terms.
Yes,
At the end of the day, then of course the Macekia will benefit a lot.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Cik Zul, with so much benefit with CAKNA, you can see after we discuss how CAKNA can help the SMEs. But again, the question come now is how to apply.
Okay, alright. Interesting question, Chano. I think we touch about what is Kim CAKNA. We touch about what is the benefit of CAKNA, and I hope all those audience outside there benefited or get a grasp of what is CAKNA and what CAKNA can help. So the next question, how can company outside there apply under CAKNA, right?
I think that is the most important question now.
Yes.
Then they can see all the benefit, all those things that they can get. But the next one is, okay, how do I apply?
Where should I go?
Yeah.
All right. So if I can break into into two part. The first part I will talk about the application, the onboarding. We call it an onboarding lah. Another part we talk about on the disbursement. When the money that the important whereby the money can the company can get the money from the bank
after being approved.
After they've been approved. So basically, it started with flow. As you can see, number one, the ministry. So basically, like I earlier mentioned, if you recall the linear graph, the first when the government sourcing for goods or services, they will advertise to perolehan.
Correct.
So let's say after that, they will invite all those registered companies under perolehan to bid.
Okay.
Yeah, as according to we call it code bidang lah.
Alright.
The companies that registered under MOF under perolehan.
Yeah.
So let's say the company tender and they won the contract.
Right.
So the ministry or agency will issue, we call it a surat setuju terima.
Okay.
Or SST.
SST, yeah.
To perolehan.
Okay.
And at the same time, ministry or agency will upload the deed of assignment to perolehan for the company to download.
Alright.
Yeah. So that's step number one. So number two, once the SST have been issued by the ministry or by the agency to the company.
Okay.
So now the company as a successful tenderer can come to the bank and submit the facility application to this identified bank lah.
Alright.
Yeah, the four bank that
The four banks,
we
yes.
mentioned earlier. So they need to come to the bank, bring over the application form. They need to go to the website of respective bank, download the application form for the facility, and also bring over the original copy of the SST.
Okay.
The agreement.
Okay.
So why this step is important? Because the bank might need to know about the contract value, about the contract that they obtain.
Okay.
Yeah? So and then the company also need to bring the deed of assignment that they download from e-perolehan.
Okay.
Yeah. So the company is freely to go to any four bank they feel or they close or they would like to engage with to get this facility. Right? And after that, once the bank receive that application, the bank would need to provide an approval within 10 working days.
Okay.
So this is same across the four bank.
Okay.
So whereby we need to revert back to client within 10 working days. Oh yeah. So once the bank have given an approval to the company have been company know that their application have been approved. The next step is the bank would then submit the complete application to the ministry together with SST.
Okay.
The facility that approved by the bank under CAKNA, and also the deed of assignment, the doa.
Okay.
So this doa, like I mentioned earlier, like we mentioned earlier, is the most important instrument under this scheme CAKNA.
Alright.
Because this will be a document that signed between three parties. Yeah, that confer the right of the receivable from the company to the bank.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the important document. And this deed of assignment, together with the other document, will submit to the ministry for the ministry to sign. So once the ministry or the PTJ sign the deed of assignment, the PTJ will submit back to the bank. That's where the onboarding completed lah.
Okay.
So at that time, CAKNA have been approved by the bank to the company, and now company can utilize the
funding.
CAKNA,
Okay.
yeah, to get the funding.
Okay. Okay. But
So-
how long the process take, Cik Zul, from end to end on this application?
Based on, like I mentioned, approval take 10 working days.
Okay.
Yeah. And three working days where the government need to return back the deed of assignment, and maybe another 10 days for bank to sort out the documentation.
Okay.
So maybe less than a month.
Oh, okay. That's very quick.
Yeah, less than a month.
Yeah. Compared to normal kind of financing, it may take much longer than that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because other normal financing, we need to evaluate, bank need to evaluate,
Correct.
company
Yeah.
look into cash flow,
Yeah.
Understand is there any encumbrances over the collateral, all those will take some time. But compared to CAKNA, it's straightforward. You can say it's straightforward because there's no collateral involved, and all this period is already has been laid down under the guideline that all four bank need to follow. Yeah.
So all four bank will have a seamless way of processing all this kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah?
It's the same same level playing field.
That's really key.
So yeah.
If I'm an SME, I think I would go for CAKNA.
Yeah.
Because
They should.
it's fast turnaround time, and then lots of benefits that they've been given out.
Yeah.
So okay. So let's talk about once you get approved and they have obtained the work from the government. How did they submit the invoice and disburse the money from the
Okay,
bank?
alright.
Yeah.
So that I will touch on the second part, which is on the payment, right?
Okay.
So let's assume the facility has been on board.
Okay.
Company Macikia is already obtained the CAKNA facility from one of the bank.
Okay.
Yeah. So now Macikia will deliver the goods.
Alright, right.
Supply the goods. Supply the food to Ministry of Health, right?
Okay.
So now after Macikia supply the food to Ministry of Health, then it's time for payment. So Macikia will raise the invoice. So now with the invoice, Macikia will then comes to okay, makcik need to upload first the
Okay.
invoice to e-perolehan as per
Okay.
normal route, and makcik will bring the copy of invoice and also delivery order to the bank
Oh,
for
okay.
the to utilize the CAKNA.
Okay.
So the step of makcik to upload the invoice is according to current process, which is makcik to upload to invoice to e-perolehan, and
That won't change, right?
that won't
That will be
change.
the same,
That
right?
will be as
Okay.
it is.
Okay.
Just the difference is after makcik upload the invoice to e-perolehan, makcik can come to the bank, bring over the invoice and also delivery order or transport document, come to get the bank to get to draw down on the CAKNA. So that's why the bank would then first, before the bank, once the bank receive the application together with the invoice and also the delivery order, bank would need to do some sort of verification lah.
Correct.
Yeah. So I think there's a normal standard of the bank whereby we need to look into this verification process.
Right.
So the bank would then will contact the PTJs to find out whether the invoice is correct. Number one. Number two, the bank might need to know how much is the net amount. So once the bank receive the confirmation from the PTJs, the bank would then make payment immediately to the company.
Right.
Yes. So this process normally will take about around 2 days.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because the bank need to go back to PTJs to find out,
Correct.
to get confirmation. Once the bank get confirmation, the bank can immediately credit to client account.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So and number five, once the bank, let's say on day one, the bank make payment to the company, and the payment from the ministry, let's say the ministry make payment in day 14. So on day 14, the ministry will effect payment directly to the bank,
Correct.
according to account number as stipulated in the deed of assignment.
Okay.
So that's how the payment will be made by the government to account maintained with the bank, and to the company they need not to worry anymore, because
Okay.
bank would then do the collection from the ministry, and get the money. Once they get the money, the bank will net off the
Net off,
whatever,
square off already the advance
the
from the-
advance that made by the bank lah.
Right. That's what we discussed just now, because
Yes.
then they don't have to worry about chasing the government,
Yeah.
chasing all the other party, where's my payment, this and
Yeah.
everything, right?
Yeah.
So once they receive the payment, in 2 working days, you mentioned,
Yes.
that's really, really quick.
Yeah.
So they can use the money to pay off all their suppliers, their vendors, to help them to fulfill the project, right?
Yes.
Right, great. I think the next one is we going to look at the Q&A here. There's few I would say burning question. First of all, let us talk about the DOA. There's a few question, very very popular question about DOA
Okay.
here.
Doa.
Okay, doa, yeah. So can you tell us a little bit, Encik Zul, this doa, where to get it from, how do they process it, and until it get drawn down?
Okay, alright. So to answer that question, I think I go back to the payment. Yes, no.
Sorry, here?
Yeah, the
Okay.
explanation. So, like I think Aileen mentioned, the deed of assignment is the primary document that used under scheme CAKNA.
Correct.
That will be the anchor of this
Right.
scheme CAKNA,
Right.
whereby deed of assignment is the instrument that binding between 3 party.
Right. So this is the instrument that make everything possible. Huh?
Yes, make everything possible.
Yeah.
Whereby the deed of assignment is the document that informing government that this supplier, this company, have assigned the right of receiver to receive money, to receive the payment from the invoice to the bank.
Aye, okay.
And that deed of assignment will also contain the all the terms lah.
Okay.
The term including where to pay the fund, where the where the fund to be made.
Okay.
And which account number, etc.
Okay, okay.
And this deed of assignment is given, should be provided by the ministry.
Okay.
Like I mentioned, like based on this flow, it should be downloaded. It should be uploaded by the ministry to
Okay.
e-perolehan.
Okay.
Whereby the company, once they obtain the SST, let's say they obtain this year under
Okay.
this year contract, they can download that deed of assignment from e-perolehan,
From e-perolehan.
or they can get it from the PTJs lah.
Aye, okay.
Yeah.
So the best way to get this doa is downloading from the e-perolehan
E-perolehan,
webpage.
yes.
Okay,
Yes.
alright.
Yeah.
So once they downloaded the document from the e-perolehan, so what are they going to do with it? So
Okay.
what's the process lah after that?
Once they download the deed of assignment, basically they need to if they interested to onboard the CAKNA, they can visit any of the 4 bank,
Okay.
bring over the SST, the surat
Okay.
tuju terima, together with the doa, and then apply to the bank that company want to get funding under CAKNA.
Okay.
And if the bank approve the application, the bank would then sign the deed of assignment. The bank will need company to sign the deed of assignment.
Okay.
That's why this deed of assignment signed by both bank and company would then channel round it to ministry.
To the ministries, okay.
To ministry to sign the deed of assignment.
Alright,
So once
right.
the company sign the deed of assignment, that will be done deal.
Okay.
So the agreement that's
Enforced, eh?
enforced. That's
Okay.
called the tripartite agreement lah.
Right.
Yeah. So that's enforced. That's where the onboarding, we call it completed lah.
Alright, right. But once it's done, then the everything is in order.
Yes.
So the SME can start channeling those invoices to the
Yes.
bank to claim for the
Yes.
payment for the respective contracts.
Yeah, the deed of assignment is only one time
Yeah.
per contract.
Yeah. Okay.
So meaning that one SST, one deed of assignment.
Okay.
And deed of assignment, let's say if the deed of assignment, the contract is 100,000, right, for 2 years. So deed of assignment is only one time for that 2 years.
Okay.
So every disbursement is no longer required deed of assignment to be executed lah.
Alright.
Okay.
But we also saying that there are 4 ministries here. Say for example, Macikia. On top of MOH, Ministry of Health, she also have a contract with Ministry of Education, Ministry of Higher Education.
Yep.
So will she need to have a separate doa with all the respective ministries? Or
Yes.
You know?
Because like I mentioned, one SST, one surat tuju terima for one deed of assignment. So let's say Mak Cikia obtain contract from MOE
Okay.
or MOH. So Mak Cikia get 2 contract worth 600,000,
Okay.
300,000 each.
Okay.
So Mak Cikia would have a 2 SST and Mak Cikia would have a 2 DOA.
Right.
So let's say Mak Cikia want to split lah. So Mak Cikia can go to one of the bank or another contract they go to another bank.
Right.
So that's how
it
it
can
works.
be done.
Yeah, it can be done.
So it shows that this CAKNA is very flexible.
Yeah.
So it's not necessary everything have to be concentrated into one bank. It can be like divided equally. It depends on the convenience or comfortable level of the SMEs.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So we go to the next question,
Okay.
Giselle. There'll be one of the burning question that many of the people ask here. Is it some of the SMEs? The issues here is when it comes to the SMEs, they may have not what we call it a great track record in terms of their repayment record or those kind of thing. They may have certain issues especially during this current situation where payment getting late, and then they may have lots of other things they have committed earlier on, obligation to their families and many others. So and resulted that the payment may sometimes be late to the respective bank. So because of that, there will be some record appear in the secrets and the CTOS perhaps something like that. So in this CAKNA, will that be part of the consideration when the bank provide this funding?
Okay, alright. This is good question. No, I think this would be differentiate CAKNA with this normal facility. Okay.
Alright.
Under the CAKNA, the bank is actually taking the risk of government.
Okay.
So the bank will not taking the risk of the company. So unlike the normal facility, the bank will need to evaluate the company because the bank taking the risk of the company.
Okay.
So that's why the bank would need to look into the track record.
Okay.
Bank need to look into the cash flow, the credit worthiness, the payment, whether the company have a adverse record, everything.
Yes.
Yeah. So for this scheme CAKNA, so this would not be matter to the company.
Okay.
Because like I mentioned, the bank is actually taking the risk of government.
Okay.
So let's say we know that during this pandemic, maybe Mak Cikia lah.
Okay.
Maybe Mak Cikia not able to pay the high purchase facility according to time. So resulting for few days in arrears, for example. But under CAKNA, Machikia still eligible, to be on board under scheme CAKNA because of, like I mentioned, the bank is taking the risk of government. So that would be one of the benefit.
Correct.
Cik Noh, whereby under this scheme CAKNA, if the companies having maybe unfavorable track record,
Okay.
but under CAKNA,
But
except for bankruptcy lah.
Okay.
So basically because that one
That
you
one
cannot
is-
lah.
okay, that one is
But
totally
like a
out lah,
normal,
yeah.
that one, the company is still eligible under scheme CAKNA. So
Alright,
that's
yeah.
that would be one of the benefit, I can say benefit,
Yes.
that can help the company during
SMEs,
this tough
yeah?
time lah.
Wow. Okay. You see, just to recap what we have discussed so far, 100% in terms of funding that the
Yeah.
bank provide to the SMEs.
Correct.
And then will not require any collateral
Yes.
for this kind of financing, and then they don't have to worry about getting all their staff to chase their respective people for payment,
Yes.
or those kind of thing. And then even if they have some sort of I would say adverse record in their existing current what do you call this record, the secrets or they still can obtain this CAKNA
Yes.
financing.
Yes.
Okay, well, great. So right, the next one, Cik Zul, I just want to check on this. There's a very popular question. We put a few popular question in terms of the stamp duty and legal fees. How is this stamp duties and legal fees play to the SME? I mean, affected the SMEs, Cik Zul.
Okay, alright. If I can put it this way, in terms of the onboarding documentation requirement,
Okay.
that will be still required.
Okay.
But for scheme CAKNA, it will be minimal, I can say, but it depends on bank. Some bank may be minimal cost, much more minimal, but some bank maybe have some sort of cost in terms of the legal fee.
Okay.
But what I can tell is that the cost of CAKNA in terms of the legal documentation, it will be much more minimal
Okay.
compared if
A normal
company-
kind of financing.
the normal kind of financing.
Okay.
In terms of stamp duty, stamp duty will be at minimal.
Okay.
Yeah. Since we are taking the receivable. Yeah. So net both legal fee and stamp duty, it will be much lower than if company go into the normal financing facility lah.
Okay.
Yeah, whereby 0.5% we incurred stamp valorem, stamp duty, but for CAKNA it will be
Very minimum,
very minimum.
So it won't burden the SMEs to come up with all this kind of documentation fees,
Yes.
legal fees, all those kind
Yes,
of things.
yes. It won't
Right.
burden.
Yeah.
I can tell it won't burden the
They will help
companies.
the SMEs a lot
Yes.
in realizing their business aspiration
Correct.
at the minimum cost, while they'll get what they need
Yes,
to
yes.
fulfill their business requirements.
Yes.
Great. I think the next question is let me see. There's a lot of questions, so we need to find those who are in common one. Okay, this one, Cik Zul. Eligibility of the business out there to apply for the scheme CAKNA.
Okay.
Is it only confined to the SMEs, or non-SMEs also can come in and apply?
Okay, alright. Thanks, Cik Noh. For this scheme CAKNA, companies that obtain a contract from this four ministry
Okay.
for this year, whether they already obtained or they are future obtained. So, so long that the contract was given by these four ministry, like I mentioned, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Higher Education, and Ministry of Communication and Multimedia. So long that they obtain contract from these four ministry through e-perolehan,
Okay.
then they are eligible.
Right.
Yeah.
So it opens to all the time, all the kind of businesses.
Yes,
right?
yes. But
of course, the SME will be the one that will give priority, I suppose.
Yeah.
Or the bank will put an effort or to give priority to the SMEs. Because they knows that the SME is the one that really need
Yes.
kind of thing.
I think for those company that quite big,
Okay.
maybe they already have a facility with their existing facility may be sufficient.
Okay.
But even though sufficient, this is make things quite interesting. Because remember we talk about that scheme CAKNA will not include gearing into their balance sheet.
Correct.
So let's say if the company is a big company, they already have a facility with maybe with their existing bankers.
Okay.
Maybe their trade facility, BAs or invoice financing or whatsoever.
Okay.
If they use this scheme CAKNA, they can free up their limit with that bank.
Right.
So let's say company A have 10 million worth of facility under
Okay.
trade finance, for example. They draw down BA, for example.
Okay.
So previously they draw down also for contract under government.
Okay.
But under this, they can opt for CAKNA, so that the 10 million limit that they have with that bank will not be used. Hence, they can use that limit for other purpose. So that's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, the amount that they utilize under CAKNA will not incur into their gearing.
Right. So
in
won't
that-
appear anywhere in the
it will
balance
not appear
sheet.
anywhere. So in a nutshell, if like example, take Mak Cikia draw down 300,000 worth of invoice under CAKNA. So if like example, Mak Cikia use the existing facility, maybe the facility 10 million, let's say 1 million. So the facility that Mak Cikia now use is only 7,000 because they use they draw down under their own facility. Mak Cikia draw down their own facility, but if they use under CAKNA, that 1 million will not be untouched. Yeah, 10,000 will be under CAKNA, and it will not appear in the balance sheet of Mak Cikia because Mak Cikia selling the receivable and it's without recourse.
Right. So okay, we go with one or two more questions, Cik Zul. I pick the one that very common that we have a lot of questions here. So I need to find out the most common one so we can answer a few questions at one go.
Okay.
The next one will be what is the he post here interest rate, but we call it pricing.
Okay.
But what is the pricing rate like for this scheme CAKNA? I know that you have explained earlier. Perhaps maybe you can reiterate it again.
Okay. The interest rate for CAKNA, because the intention is to help SME
Correct.
during the pandemic. So the minimum, we call it not call it minimum. Meaning the pricing rate would be around 5%.
That is the maximum.
The maximum,
Okay,
yes, the maximum 5%. Because that's where Bank Negara is emphasised that this scheme this scheme should be able to support the companies in this overcome this uncertain time. So pricing will be main of the factor.
Crucial, yes.
Yeah, crucial. That's where the pricing for CAKNA is a maximum 5%.
Okay.
And if you compare to other financing facility, if you look into company, for example, company A is SME, maybe not good track record, maybe they pay at BFR plus.
Okay.
Right? Or more than that. If it's like our example earlier, under factoring, company may incur up to 10 to 12%.
Okay.
But for CAKNA, it's 5%.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So great. So that means it depends. It varies from bank to bank.
Yeah.
Again, some bank may have different pricing structures that they provide to the SMEs.
Yeah.
So then I would say for the SMEs, if they already have a relationship with these four banks, like you mentioned also the NBSB, CIMB Islamic, Maybank Islamic, and also RSB Islamic, so they can always go to the respective bank and talk to them and explore how the bank can help them in terms of helping them to apply for the scheme CAKNA. Right. Okay. One last question, Cik Zul. This is about the contract on the revolving basis. For example, they bill, maybe they have a contract, say 1 year period, they bill it on a monthly basis maybe. So how is this mechanism work? So did they need to submit the invoice on monthly basis as how they normally claim from the government, or they will have to wait until the end of the contract period to submit?
Okay. If I understand correctly, the question, is that whether this scheme CAKNA how this scheme CAKNA work for kind of revolving contract.
Correct.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I think it's a good question. I think I forgot to touch on this revolving perspective of CAKNA. Okay, this scheme CAKNA, scheme CAKNA is revolving in nature.
Okay.
I can say that this is because it will be tagged to the contract.
Alright.
So let's take example, Macikia
Okay.
get a 300,000 SST.
Okay.
Macikia on board into scheme CAKNA. Let's say the first month Macikia get bill and 100,000 invoice.
Okay.
So Macikia can get financing of 100,000 under CAKNA.
Okay.
So now Macikia have another 200,000 remaining.
Correct.
To use under CAKNA.
Okay.
So and then 1 month later, Makcik get another contract of 300,000 from another ministry.
Correct.
So Makcik Kia can come into CAKNA and get the same value. So meaning that the limit under CAKNA now is become 300,000.
Alright.
So once let's say the first contract Makcik Kia have utilize it. If Makcik Kia get another contract, they can come to CAKNA on board. Makcik Kia can get another limit. So that's where this revolving CAKNA is revolving in nature.
Okay.
And I believe it will be helping companies lah.
Okay.
Because of there's no capping. I can say there's no capping per se. It's based on the contract value of the company that they obtained from the ministry. Yeah.
So this CAKNA, just to recap on your answer, Jezul, covers both way of contract arrangement. One, it may be one-off.
Yeah.
Another one would be the revolving.
Revolving, yes.
So in the event of revolving, so whenever they need to invoice the government, so the same process that we discussed just now, I think would be this slide, I suppose.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is they have three times of claiming from the government. So there will be 3 times of this process.
Correct.
For the skip CAKNA.
Yeah, you're right.
Right, great. So actually, I can't resist to answer this one more question, because he says that who bears the cost of stamp duty and legal fees? I suppose that this will vary from bank to bank. You don't mind if I answer this?
Yeah, okay.
Because I understand from what you mentioned just now, it varies from bank to bank. It depends on the relationship between the SMEs, the businesses, and with the bank. Some banks may look at it as a complementary to the businesses. They might just finance it all together, or some banks may put the cost back to the SMEs. It depends. So it's up to the SMEs to negotiate with the respective bank, I suppose. So anyhow, the objective of this CAKNA is to support the businesses up there, especially the SMEs, on the continuity of the business. If I may change it to come to this slide. This is a tool or something like to help the SMEs to make sure their continuation of the business is there. Of course, with the current situation, everybody is aware the needs of working capital is getting intense. Number one. Number two, process of getting a normal kind of financing may be difficult nowadays, compared considering with the current situation, the stringiness level of the bank in processing the kind of financing. And then with the SMEs, of course, they're being affected so much, especially on the B40s, where they may not be able to serve their existing financing up to date. So this is something that to help them whenever they secure contract from the government, they'll be able to fulfill the contract and get new contract subsequently to let the continuation of the business running as smooth as possible. Again, at the moment, they only involve 4 ministries, like you mentioned, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Higher Education, and also Ministry of Communication and Multimedia. And for current moment, 4 banks participating into this CAKNA, which is Maybank Islamic, CIMB Islamic, RSB Islamic, and also MBSB Bank. So the whole process of the approval that you mentioned just now, it takes about 10 days, which is, I suppose, that will be very, very, very quick. And once you get approved, so everything in order for the SME to draw down the fund, they'll take most about 2 days. So I think this is something like, as I mentioned earlier, will help the SMEs to continue with the business going forward. Again, if you follow back the process of how the application going on is to once they obtain the contract from the government, so they can get doa in place,
Yeah.
and then they will submit everything to the bank. The bank will do the processing, and then sign all the document of the doa. Again, that you mentioned, the doa is the principal document.
Yeah.
That this is the document that make everything comes true.
Yeah.
Right? So then they have to submit to the government. The government have to sign and return back everything to the bank, right?
Yeah.
So once everything in order, so the SMEs or the business can start submit the invoices with all those supported document in place for the drawdown. Yeah. So then, and once it's done, they receive the money. The best part is they don't have to worry about calling the government and
Yeah.
chase the government, the perolehan people perhaps, or
Yeah.
for payment, everything
Yeah.
like that. And they don't have to worry anymore about the payment, because once they receive the money from the disbursement from the bank,
Yeah.
the government going to pay the bank, to reimburse back the bank,
Yeah.
something like that. Right? So as compared to the other conventional, I would say, factory,
Yeah.
so they have to do a lot of chasing still.
Yeah.
And then, like we mentioned just now, they can use this as a tool for them to negotiate with their respective suppliers
Yeah.
for a better term.
Yeah.
And then they can make sure that their working capital runs smoothly.
Yeah.
All in all, this CAKNA, I would say, do have the potential to help a lot to the SMEs.
Yes,
if you
definitely.
really look at it, really understand
Yes.
the whole mechanism of this CAKNA, then the SME will have the full benefit
Yeah.
of this scheme.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay.
Any question? Any question that I think we still have time.
Yeah.
Any question that perhaps.
Let me see. Question that we can take from the audience today. I think most of the question is been asked. How to retrieve the doa, and then the cost of stamping being covered.
Okay.
Maximum and minimum invoices can be financed, all be covered.
Okay.
Here they says that okay, after signing the surat setuju terima, the SST, then some reason below situation happened, the SST been cancelled, or contract got extended due to the any situation. How this settle in this CAKNA?
Okay. Alright. I think it's valid question.
Yeah.
Let's say that's okay. Under this CAKNA, we remember that the DOA will be the primary document.
Correct.
And before the advance, before the bank make funding, bank will need to check with the government
Okay.
whether the invoice is valid, whether the contract is still available or valid, etc. So if that particular case happen, the SST being cancelled, so there's two things that the client can do. Number one, company can come to the bank and inform bank that the contract has been cancelled.
Okay.
In the case of contract is been amended, similarly, the company need to come to the bank and inform that there is amendment of the contract, whether the amendment on the amount or the tenure lah. So basically, company need to inform bank lah, Pacific Bank that the contract had been amended or been cancelled.
Okay.
And from the bank perspective, if we receive such a request, we will get in touch with government.
Okay.
Yeah, so we will get in touch with government to find out whether it's true or not, and before we make any amendment or adjustment lah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So I suppose that would answer that
Yeah.
questions. Yeah. So okay. I think we have no more other question.
Yeah, I think I wanted to add one more.
Yeah.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, sure,
if
please.
time permitted. I think the question, the $1 billion question, or the perception that the company may have, why I need this CAKNA.
Alright.
It's a short tenure.
Yeah.
Right? It's 14. Like I mentioned earlier, it's 14 days, minimum 14 days,
Correct.
and up to depending on the bank. But why? Because this is a post shipment.
Correct.
Meaning that the company have delivered, have done the job. Company have billed the invoice.
Okay.
And just waiting for payment. But most of company that require is on the pre-shipment. It's
Okay.
on the money for them to do the job.
to start
the
to
job,
get role everything.
to get role and
Yeah.
everything. So that's where that I would like to tell company outside there, the supplier, even though CAKNA, it seems that short tenure is for shipment, but please take this opportunity.
Correct.
Why I'm said so, you know? Number one, if the company is new company, or previously they don't create any track record with the bank, so the company need to take this opportunity to build the track record, because once the track record is created, the bank the flow in the inflow and outflow of the company is well documented in the account statement, or there's evidence that the company is actually managing the company very well, the cash flow very well. So that's where the company can come to the bank and apply for the facility. So that's the end objective, because the CAKNA is actually a tool. Like I mentioned, it's a tool, but on top of the tool, it also can be used as a avenue for the company to build a track record. Later on, to obtain a sustainable financing, because CAKNA is only for 1 year, right?
Correct.
So taking this CAKNA opportunity to build a track record, to create a track record, with the objective to obtain a facility. So because we know that most of company that supply to government may be ranging from enterprise, small SME. So
yes.
maybe
micro SME.
Yeah. Maybe because they afraid, or they have a perception that I wouldn't get, because I'm small, I wouldn't get any financing facility from the bank.
Correct.
Yeah? So because of that, they use their own pocket money. They maybe they borrow from their wife, their mom, dad. We call it pama, and father, parent,
true.
Or from the worst is from along, right? So true. Just to get the money to serve the contract. So if the company obtain another contract, but the payment for the contract is never been obtained. So that's CAKNA can help out. So they can, while waiting for a payment, what they can do, they can leverage. That's, we call it a leverage. A company that managing their working capital effectively, they always use a leveraging factor. So with this CAKNA, they can use CAKNA to get payment upfront, and that money can be used for them to serve another contract. So they would, this will give them an avenue for them to get a new contract, a fresh contract. So without bothering that my capital has been stuck. So that's number two. Number one, like I mentioned, use this as a track record. Number two, use this as a standby. Standby for them to ease their cash flow. And most important, number three, so for this scheme CAKNA, like I mentioned, because this is a non-recourse structure, right? And then it will not impact their balance sheet, because the bank is purchasing the receivable. So this would not impact their gearing ratio. So the balance sheet of client of SME in future, if they go to the bank to get financing, the bank would evaluate that, wow, this company is effectively managing their account receivable.
Right
or not?
Yes.
They are managing effectively working the account receivable. Yes, effectively, because the days sales outstanding is shortened. Yeah.
And they have able to negotiate a longer term from the suppliers.
If the company is more complicated or advanced, they can negotiate with supplier to give a supply credit and lengthen the account payable. So the net effect, longer account payable, shorter account days sales outstanding, and for the bank or financial institution, when you look at it, this company is good because they managing their working capital effectively. So that's the word. So that's 3 points that I wanted to explain to the company out there. Take this opportunity to use CAKNA while this CAKNA is in pilot for 1 year. For the things that I mentioned earlier, the 3 points that I mentioned earlier. Number one, big record. Number two, use as a standby. Number three, showcase that they are managing the working capital effectively. So that's my suggestion, my advice to the company, not to look into the post shipment, the 14 days.
Okay.
look into that you can use this as a avenue, as a tool to managing their working capital and also to be a track record.
Correct.
And in the long run, when they managing their working capital better, they have enough sufficient capital, they get more contract, they can serve more contract, they can excel. The company can go
they can do beyond their
what
capabilities.
their capability, yes.
Because of the help of this CAKNA scheme.
Correct.
They will be able to reach to obtain funding.
Yeah.
And with the money they receive, they can start looking new
Yes.
what to do.
Yes.
Instead of we have to wait for few
payment
14
from
working days
government,
the
just
government,
to start another contract.
Yeah.
So
For those companies that maybe have been established, they
Yeah.
are very strong in terms of cash flows and everything. They may not have this kind of problem.
yeah.
But if they want to come to us, why not, right?
Yeah, why not?
But again, this is more towards to those new setup companies. Perhaps maybe we can encourage those graduates when they after they finish their studies, they want to come up with the business world. They manage to obtain
Contract from
contract
government,
from the
yeah.
government, so they can always come to the bank and say, bank, I have obtained this from the four ministries. Can I get anything from you?
Yeah.
So definitely the bank will consider to give them this right?
Yes.
So
So how we I think we have discussed in length, but how for the company to contact us, to contact the bank?
Before that, just want to share. This is the marketing collateral that the Bank Negara is putting up under scheme CAKNA. So this will be available to the few ministries webpage.
Yes.
Together with the SST, I suppose, whenever there's a contract secured. So the respective ministries will also provide this to the SMEs, right?
In English, it's available in all the four bank website.
Yes.
I think companies
also
can
available.
also get.
So I suppose that for the SMEs who really want to look into this scheme CAKNA, there are plenty of information available. So you can always reach out. And the most important part is, I suppose, before we end, Cik Zul, we share the four banks contact details.
Yes.
My suggestion is, if they say the respective SMEs do have existing track record with the four banks, and then they have secured some sort of contract from the government, please, I think to simplify the whole process, they can just approach to the respective
do approach bank to see what can bank
that
do
they have a relationship with.
Yeah.
So more or less, I suppose that all the bank way of process will be standardized. Because this is governed by the scheme itself.
Yes.
And each of bank, I think, more than willing to help.
Yes,
That's the most important part, right?
Yes.
But this is CAKNA is if you want to talk about profit making, not so much profit making that the bank can make, but of course this is more towards to assisting the SMEs to make sure that they can stand up tall during this current situation, whereby if they're just starting up new businesses, like you mentioned, to create a track record, and then to get financing, and then to manage their cash flows well, something like that, right? So before we end, Encik Zul, any last word from you?
Okay, alright. I think I sum up all on this scheme CAKNA to the participant. My suggestion, like I earlier mentioned, please use this opportunity under the CAKNA to make use of this scheme.
Okay.
Why? Number one, company should tap into this scheme because of the pricing. The pricing is a cheaper pricing, that very competitive pricing that the bank offer on the scheme CAKNA.
Yes.
Number two, because of this would be number two, because it's fast, it's immediate and fast.
Correct.
The onboarding process is simple. Yeah. So the question is that why should not the company
take up this
CAKNA? Because it's simple. It's fast.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think number three, this scheme CAKNA is eventually was developed or was introduced because of we want to support the SME.
Correct.
I think government want to see, because SME contribute to the a portion of significant to GDP, country GDP.
Yes.
Right? So if SME can sustain, can get more contract, it will have a ripple effect to the economy.
Correct.
So the effect will be huge.
Yes.
Okay, no.
Yeah.
So let's take example, if the company can get efficiently manage their working capital, they have their fund to pay the salary of the company, maintain the number of manpower in the company. So the employees then spend to the economy. It will give impact. It will give positive impact. So my advice to the company, please consider CAKNA. You can visit any of these 4 banks.
Correct.
To find out about CAKNA.
Correct.
Don't hesitate to ask questions through and visit our the bank website.
Correct.
And contact the number as stated in the screen to find out more. So
yes.
I think that's my last word, Cik Noh.
Okay.
On this Kim Chana. So with that, I think that's it from me.
Right. Yeah, thank you very much, Encik Zul. Very, I would say compact and very well. I mean, the way you put it is very, very comprehensive, easy to understand for the SMEs. And my suggestion to the SMEs out there, perhaps this is the best that you guys can explore with, to find an opportunity to support your business, and don't really hesitate to talk to the 4 banks this kind for this CAKNA scheme. Again, as what Encik Zul mentioned just now, it's competitive in terms of pricing. It gives a lot of flexibilities for the SMEs to manage your cash position. Again, with the tools that the CAKNA is giving, you can always negotiate with your respective suppliers for better terms, and at the same time, you don't have to worry about they have to chase for payment, to free a few of your staff time to do a lot of other things, especially securing new businesses. Okay, all in all, this is the package that come up with from the Bank Negara, none other than to help the SMEs to the fullest. Again, if the SMEs do not want to take this opportunity, then will be waste. So again, with that, I think Zul, we end our session for today's in here. With that, I will close the session with Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good day for everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.